Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thank you for spending part of your Tuesday afternoon with us. Social media model Courtney Clenney appearing in court today for an evidentiary hearing. Now, she goes by the name Courtney Taylor on social media and on OnlyFans, and she has been charged with second-degree murder in the stabbing death of her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli. This is him with her. The 26-year-old model, now defendant, is claiming that she acted in self-defense. She's pleaded not guilty to all of the charges brought against her during her arraignment hearing last month, and she was in court today where her attorney is arguing to keep some evidence out. We have our Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae with us in the studio today to break down what happened in today's hearing. Julia, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Julie. This hearing just wrapped up not too long ago. Those parties inside of a Miami courtroom. This was a defendant who was in Hawaii when she was picked up by authorities and then extradited back to Florida, South Florida, where this happened. Now, the defense, they want to keep thousands and thousands of text messages, the information that would be coming from Clenney's phone, out of the media. This really had to do with what the public will see in this case, not necessarily what the state will have access to. All of that today unfolding in front of a judge. Here's a listen to Frank Prieto. He's the defense attorney for this defendant, arguing why it should not be released, in particular to the Miami Herald, the newspaper that was present there today.
They did a cell phone download of Ms. Clenney's phone. This generation, hundreds, probably thousands of text messages. It's also going to contain content that she would use on her OnlyFans site. It's going to contain this drop of discovery. I'm submitting a terabyte drive to the state is going to contain personal text messages with her family, friends, third parties that have nothing to do with this case.
Prieto making the point there that she's got a lot of information from her OnlyFans site that would be on this phone. That kind of information would have sexually explicit videos and photos that he says nothing to do with his case, should not survive in front of this judge. That was the argument today in front of the court, Julie.
Oh boy, Julia. Tell me, what did the state say in their response to this? Are they okay with the media having this information out there?
Well, prosecutors actually have an interesting relationship with the media when it comes to this case. There's oftentimes that prosecutors don't want to give the media anything, and the prosecutor in this case has stated that they want this to play out in a court of law, not in the media. But there's video that they put out during their press conference once those charges were announced. We have a video of that from inside the elevator. Now, this was a defendant who was not arrested for months while this case was being investigated, and she was not under any charges. That's actually how she ended up in Hawaii, because she was free to come and go as she pleased. But when they announced those charges, they put out this video of her seeming to be aggressive towards this victim, the boyfriend that she would kill several months after this footage was taken. The defense very objectionable to this being released to the public, saying that they've already started trying to taint the jury, that they are eroding their client's right to a fair trial. But here's a listen to what the state's response to those accusations was in court.
This case became newsworthy because of a particularly bloody video that was posted on the news. Instead of remaining silent, the defendant chose to release a public statement on April 8th and released it to local news. A month later, while there was still intrigue, the defendant released another statement to Rolling Stone and Fox News. A month after that, there were more statements. Frankly, it was Mr. Prieto who both informed the press and the state of Ms. Clenney's arrest.
Prosecution there saying that the defendant was the first one to take this into the media for those statements that she made during that time, that she was not facing charges for the stabbing death of Obumseli. So, Julie, I also want to point out about that video that I just showed a minute ago with the elevator. The defense today, they said that it actually, if there was more context given with it, that their position is she was trying to keep him from leaving the elevator to have access to her apartment, or the apartment that they lived in at times together. So they say even with this video, it doesn't show what they say the state wants the public to see.
You know, this video is not a good look for her, as we know, Julia, especially if she's trying to say she wasn't the aggressor. And here you watch it, and all he's doing is defending himself, trying to kind of push her away, and she's just relentless there. Yikes. Okay, so today's hearing, in terms of that evidence from her phone, did the court make a ruling?
The judge did rule at the end. She said that she's denying this motion by the defense to keep that out of the public. She said she simply doesn't have the law to back up what they were saying, that the court is not permitted to carte blanche, just overarching, not allow any of that evidence to go to the media, because it will be public once it is disclosed from the state to the defense. And they talked about the Lewis test, essentially those 3 prongs, and one of those being that if it's not going to create some imminent damage to the trial, if it's not going to create a situation where they would have to change venue in order to allow there to be a fair trial, there just didn't seem to be that overwhelming evidence in front of the judge. But she said this is without prejudice, so it may come up again in this case as more unfolds.
I bet. Wow, this one is certainly one to watch, that is for sure. And I wonder if they even set the next date where she might have her prelim. I'm curious, Julia, if you know, did they say when she may be back in court next?
Didn't say that immediately on the record today, no. It was wrapped up pretty quick to move to the next case on the docket.
Sure, and I know we'll all keep watching that docket for more of this one. Julia, Janae, thank you so much for all of that. Let me bring in my guest now to talk more about this case. He is a retired DEA special agent. He also has served as a police officer in Memphis, Tennessee. He is a trainer at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change in Atlanta, and a consultant with the juvenile court in DeKalb County. I don't know how he has time to come here on the show, but we're so glad he did. Agent Ted Golden is here with me in the studio. Welcome back in. Always love to have you here, Agent, when you're able and your schedule permits. So this one, I want to get your assessment here of this one. Her attorney getting out in the media, as Julia told us before this day, you know, say this is a self-defense case, self-defense, and then we watch that video in the elevator, albeit not from the same day, but not a good look for Courtney Clenney. Tell me what you think are going to be the big factors playing out as this one progresses, please.
Well, clearly she's an aggressive type person anyway, and unfortunately she spent her time making comments in the media, which doesn't help with prosecution. Now you have a lot more aggressive prosecutors that don't mind releasing information. Now, of course, they'll release a little bit of information, but that little bit of information changes the mindset of people who might be potential jurors, and she's not this squeaky clean, oh, I'm being abused woman. So that's going to help them to a certain extent. But a lot of this has an impact on the jury pool, unfortunately, especially in today's time when everybody's watching social media. So the fact that they released that tidbit of information was an advantage. But the other side of it is when it's time to go to trial and all this stuff becomes public, that's when it's really going to have an impact, because unfortunately, a lot of the young people like to document everything, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, they're going to be digging deep into her cell phone, I'm sure. And
Brief relationships.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, if she was aggressive in other relationships, right, that's a pattern that might be able to be introduced by the state. I think something I found really fascinating, Agent, was the forensics. It seems like the state and Miami-Dade County went forward with this murder prosecution because of the forensics that the medical examiner found with the knife blade, because they knew in the stabbing she had said to them, and I'm paraphrasing here, that she threw the knife from some distance away. We know it went into his chest, but the ME said, no, this is a 3-inch deep plunge. Think about how deep 3 inches is, and it came from a downward angle. This was not tossed from across the kitchen. No way. So to me, I thought, oh wow, that really tells. Here's a look at the weapon used in the homicide here. The whole blade 6 inches, Agent, 3 inches into Christian Abumseli's body. It
takes a lot of force to get that in, and you've got to be coming in a downward motion, and it's pretty deep. 3 inches is a deep push. I've seen, unfortunately, situations where I had a young man who actually killed a woman. He stabbed her in her heart, about 8 times. And it takes a lot of pressure to shatter through those chest bones. And get through. So she hit it pretty hard.
Oh my. You know, something else I always think about with stabbing cases, and I remember sometimes, like when I was a prosecutor, this was kind of what would disturb me most, is that it's such an intimate kind of killing, isn't it? You know, a shot fired from across the room or even at close range isn't nearly as intimate as plunging a blade into someone's body.
Who's awake, who's live. And as one person put it, he said, I heard my mommy squeal like a pig. That just, was a 5-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
That's just an overwhelming reality. And of course, I've seen people get stabbed. When I was young, I saw a guy get stabbed in the leg, and he pulled the knife out and chased the guy who stabbed him.
Oh my gosh.
So in some instances where he threw the knife, and it didn't go that deep, but it was deep enough to stick in his leg. But to do that, that's a personal issue.
Personal. It's personal.
You're
it's
watching
intimate,
the pain on their face. You're hearing the sound of their voice.
Oh yeah.
You hear the bones crack when that blade goes in there.
And apparently people in this building where they lived in Miami knew of their fights. They knew they were noisy. They knew they would have these terrible fights. So that was a relationship that, you know, obviously had turmoil, whether or not it had, you know, full-blown violence. I mean, I would venture to say, you know, yes, it did, based on that video that was from a previous occasion. I think you could call it, you know, domestic violence relationship or dynamic that was going on there.
I wonder if there are any police calls to the place as a result of that, if there's any documentation to show that they had that kind of relationship, any hospital reports and things of that nature to show that someone got injured, whether it was him or her.
Right. That's a really good point. You can bet your bottom dollar those prosecutors are trying to pull all those records and see, because police would take down all that, who might have been the aggressor. Their incident report would say, you know, talk to the couple, here's what each of them shared, and oh my, this is just horrendous. But we're gonna continue watching this one, and at the end of this hour, we're gonna have a little more on the hearing for you. We're able to play the entirety of today's evidentiary hearing for you. Just letting you know, that's coming up, so you'll get to see Courtney Clenney in court, hear more of the attorney's arguments, all of that ahead this hour of Court TV Live. We're gonna squeeze in a break right now.